Right, back live tonight here in Focus. A panel appointed by Environment Minister Barbara Creecy has found that South Africa runs the risk of losing around 170 billion rands pledged for climate finance. This as the country is taking its time to close a number of coal-fired power plants as the power utility tries to keep the lights on. Former Eskom Executive Manager and energy expert Vally Padayachee joins us for more on that. Vally, good to have you once again, and thank you very much for your time. 90 days or so close to 3 months that we have not been experiencing load shedding. And many are saying this is due to many factors, but key to these factors is the fact that we've decided to keep those coal-fired power stations that were previously said to be going to be closed, going and maintaining them properly. And they are the ones that are giving us this kind of consistency in terms of energy generation. Is that something that goes against the agreements of the Just Energy Transition Partnership?
A very good evening, Thabo, to you and the viewers, and thank you for inviting me back. Yes, in the context of what you've just elaborated about, I fully agree with what you said, and the decision taken by Eskom to apply for the extension and the permission granted by the minister, I fully support. Now, just to give context to that, although Eskom is performing, and you mentioned plus or minus 80 days, that's excellent news, and I'm hoping that performance gets sustained in the future, especially in winter. Now, to get back to the crux of your question, absolutely, the performance, albeit you may say they are limping, these coal-fired power stations are contributing significantly to the 80-odd days of no load shedding. Why I say that is, and in very simple terms, to prevent us from getting back into load shedding, the supply must meet demand. And the supply, in also very simple terms, is being provided by various generation sources, but mainly by this coal-fired fleet. And I've been saying a number of times on the media, etc., for the last couple of years, that we need to extend the life of these coal-fired stations so that we can squeeze out every electron that we can get from the stations to prevent us from getting back into load shedding, because we are still in a crisis situation. We still have the Nearcom still operating, and these coal-fired stations are key to that trouble.
So South Africa won a bulk of the pledges from the Just Energy Transition Partnerships. These are loans, these are grants, these are guarantees. This happened back in 2021. Have we received any of those loans? Have we received any of those grants? Or is it something that we are still contemplating to take?
I'm not sure of the full details, but my understanding is that we haven't received those grants yet. But maybe we should say up front, Thabo, and not sounding arrogant, we obviously welcome all grants, all forms of funding, because where we find ourselves in terms of the fiscus with respect to funding the Eskom debt, the expansion of the transmission grid, etc., we need money. But just to give it context again, as I say, we are in a crisis situation. The economy has taken a battering, especially from the Eskom load shedding. There are significant job losses, especially with the youth, etc. So we need the power system to be performing back again to its normal, and we've got this 80 days. So the decision taken by government, the minister, to extend the coal-fired stations' life, I think it's a pragmatic one, it's a practical one, it's absolutely necessary given where we find ourselves economically. And also we must not forget, and I say this with due respect, the first world countries, the European countries, a couple of years ago, when the Russian-Ukraine war has started, also went into a crisis situation, and they went back to importing coal from us and using dirty power. So that was a pragmatic decision they had taken, and we must be allowed to the same latitude to take those decisions. And I must also qualify and maybe a disclaimer, South Africa is not saying, maybe arrogantly, that we still want to kill more people through pumping more greenhouse gases in the air, etc. South Africa has made it clear. I mean, we were one of the first ones in COP26, 27 to put on the table emission targets. So our bona fides are very clear, Thabo. And again, I repeat, I fully support Eskom and the minister and government in taking this decision, but we welcome the grants.
So do you think that decommissioning, or at least the postponement of the decommissioning of the 3 power plants, the Grootvlei, Hendrina and the Camden, until 2030, could be viewed by the panel or the forum that is going to give out this money as a significant reversal of those plans that you're saying we already had in place?
No, in fact, if they're viewing it in that context, I would totally disagree. It's not a significant reversal, because my understanding that extension is only for plus or minus 5 years. I think it's 5 years. So it's a very minuscule extension of life compared to, and here again, I say this with all humility, Eskom's been polluting the atmosphere from the 60s, 70s, so for many decades. But I repeat, we don't want to pollute further, but we are in a crisis situation, and we've got to take crisis management decisions. We are in a business unusual situation, and hence I say again, I fully support the government and Eskom in the decision that they have taken.
Do you accept the recommendations also, which the minister seems to have accepted, that the retrofitting of 5 of the oldest plants with equipment to reduce sulfur dioxide pollution was impractical at this particular point for South Africa?
Absolutely, and I talk as an experienced generation engineer. I come from Eskom generation. It must be taken in the context that these are old power stations. So to go back and retrofit with the desulfurization technology is absolutely not practical. Okay, so that's the one point. And also another important point that I need to make from experience, that it's common knowledge and recognized that the transmission grid and the distribution grid is what I term constipated. So it's congested. We cannot evacuate enough electrons that we want to. So these coal-fired power stations, and not many people know this unless you're experienced, are located in parts of the grid, Thabo, where the evacuation of electrons is far easier, because they are spots of the grid where there's capacity. Now, these 3 power stations, I understand it's about 16,000 megawatts. So 16,000 megawatts is significant contribution to the grid, and they are dispatchable power. I repeat, they are dispatchable power, always on, unlike renewables. I mean, if the donor countries are supposing that these 16,000 megawatts can be replaced by 16,000 renewable electrons, that's incorrect. You've got to actually multiply that by 3. That's about 48,000. So you need 48,000 megawatts of non-dispatchable electrons to replace these 16,000 megawatts. So this decision is an absolutely pragmatic and technically sound decision, and it must be continued because our grid is absolutely constrained, and these power stations are playing a significant role in alleviating that situation. Thabo.
You know, I mean, of course, you're an engineer, you're an energy expert, you're not a health expert, but others would say that view underestimates the impact of the pollutants on the health aspect?
No, Tabo, don't get me wrong. I'm the first one, and I've got many members of my family who are in the medical field. What I'm saying is that, yes, it'll be good to stop pollution tomorrow, right? And if we had a business as usual situation, we had a business unusual situation, crisis situation, where if we don't take these decisions, and I talk as the chairman of the NRS Association, there's a potential, as a worst case scenario, we could collapse the grid and get into a national blackout. Then I would argue, and I say this with respect, the funding that we are being offered will be nothing compared to the damage that would be done to the economy, would run beyond. I understand it's about 170 billion rand that's been promised. I can assure you, if we get into a total blackout and a total collapse of the grid, that 170 billion would be nothing to the damage that we caused, let alone to the health sector. Tabo.
Vally Padayachee, appreciate your time. Thank you very much. Let's leave it there for tonight. Energy expert there, Vally Padayachee, to that panel report warning the Minister of Fisheries and Forestry, Barbara Creecy, that the reversal or the slowing down on the decommissioning of particular plants could certainly put that grant loan contribution on the Just Energy Fund of 170 billion rands in jeopardy.